Hello, this is Alex Eames from Raspberry.tv. So this is my vacuum fluorescent display Raspberry Pi smartwatch. Now it isn't really a smartwatch and it was never intended as one. It was just a joke that I tweeted a photograph of me holding it on my wrist because I was a bit fed up with all the tweets this week about smartwatches, and I put it on my arm and tweeted a photograph of it, and within 15 minutes it had got 100 retweets and it went a little bit viral and ended up on all sorts of blogs and places like that, and even made it to Adafruit, and one of the editors of Wired put it on his Tumblr blog, and just a lot of people saw it, and it was basically just a joke. But I'll show you a little walk around. I decided to make a video just because there was so much interest in it. So this is the display. It's a vacuum fluorescent display. As you can see, it's 20 characters wide by 2 high. It's quite thick and bulky, so obviously, and that's the Raspberry Pi underneath, and it's sitting on top of a prototyping board of my own design, which isn't released. It's just one that I made mostly for my own use, and it's sitting on top of a Raspberry Pi B Plus with a little Edimax Wi-Fi dongle here. Now, a friend of mine, Daniel Bull, who I met at the Milton Keynes Raspberry Jam, got me one of these vacuum fluorescent displays from a radio something or other meeting that he goes to in the Milton Keynes area in August. It's a bit like the sort of display you probably used to have on your CD player maybe 20 years ago. But what was really nice about it was that you could use the same software to drive it as the 16:2 LCD displays popularly sold and powered by the Hitachi chipset, which I've forgotten the exact numbers of it, but I'll put that up on the screen as captions. So what's it displaying? Various people joked that it was displaying temperature, my inside and outside temperature. No, it's not. It's actually, the reason why it's got a Wi-Fi dongle on it is because it's pulling in the data from my weather station feed, which is uploaded to COSM. So it's pulling in that data and showing what the temperature is inside and outside of my office, and the barometric pressure, and there you go, you've got the time and the date as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut that down and take it apart and show you the bits just for a bit of fun. So I've just gone in as close as I can just so that you can see what this thing looks like. It's an old style vacuum fluorescent display. And let's just see that each one of those is a connection, and there's a whole bunch of them, over 110 if you look at that end, up to 110. Each one of those wires is a soldered connection. There's the chip underneath. Let's take it off, detach from the board, and have a look at it by itself. So underneath you've got the chip that's driving it, and I had to solder on these pins. It's the same pinouts and header as your standard 16:2 character display, and look, you've got a couple of big capacitors there and a little transformer, and I believe in a voltage regulator here, and I believe what it does is it actually generates quite a high voltage, but I'm not entirely sure how these things work, but I've been told they are more akin to the old style valves on TVs rather than LCDs. So they don't have any brightness setting, it's either on or off for each of the pixels. But you can see how thick it is compared with your standard. It's about probably 2 and a bit times the height of a standard 16:2 LCD, and that's just this part. You've got bits on the other side of the PCB as well. So that sits on top of a little proto board that I made up myself, just with a few wires. It uses a fairly non-standard wiring scheme because the software I wrote to drive my weather station, I was using a damaged Pi which had some of the ports damaged, so it's using a bit bang protocol to drive the screen, and some non-standard wiring. So let's take that one off as well. Okay, so that's what that looks like. It's a little prototyping board. You can see I've manually soldered a few wires to the ports that I wanted, and the whole display just sits easily on there, like that. Jobs are good and easier than doing it on a breadboard. So if you look at the relative size of it, the VFD is probably what, 1.5 times as long as the Pi, and about the same height. So stack the whole thing together. And it's quite ridiculously thick. If you compare that with my thumb, it's probably what, 5 centimeters high. And then put that on your wrist. I mean, it's bigger than my hand, for goodness sake. Ridiculous. But that was the point. It was a joke. I never intended it as a watch. It was just intended as an experiment to see how it would be to have a permanent display of the output of my weather feed. But I got fed up with all the tweets about smartwatches. I don't even wear a watch. I hate watches. I hate the idea of having something strapped to my arm. So there you go. It was just an imaginative joke, that's all. Okay, so I'm just going to log in now and fire it up, and we'll see what happens. So first off, you get the time and date and the indoor temperature, then the outdoor temperature, then the indoor and outdoor light levels, then the barometric pressure, and then back to the time and date again. But of course this video would not be complete without a shot of the Raspberry Pi smartwatch precariously perched on my arm. I'm powering it by battery. You can see that I've got that here in my hand. So there you go, the Raspberry Pi smartwatch that wasn't. This was Alex Eames for RazPi.tv. Thank you for watching.